On this episode, we revisit an old topic a year later, the role of the recruiter in the industry as it stands right now. Atlas All Access starts now.
From Kirkham at 0450.
All right. So first of all, can you believe we're doing this? We've been doing this for a year.
It's insane.
Yeah. And
Insane.
we're not in a dark closet anymore.
And not in a closet, and people still comment on stuff.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
So,
but it's fun.
It is fun. It's a lot of fun. So this was a topic that we did in January of 2018. So almost a year ago.
Okay.
Right when we started hearing, we came back from Vegas. And we started hearing a little more about companies such as Wanderly and NurseFly, and so we thought, let's talk about these, right?
Sure.
How is this going to change things for us? And now I think a year later, let's talk about that. Like, has that changed anything for you?
Yeah, I don't think it has specifically ever really changed my role or my thinking. I think those platforms are fantastic. There's nothing wrong with them, but I think it takes a special nurse that can kind of do it on their own. Mm-hmm. And I would still say the majority of people out there still want somebody out there touching them mm-hmm. on some sort of level mm-hmm. of text, phone call, emails, and those kind of things. So, I think those platforms are still coming out there. I don't think it's something that's going to go away or that is failing. Mm-hmm. But I still think that the industry is based on somebody, networking and working through problems together, and ultimately having a goal to succeed on both ends as a traveler and a company on there.
I think the one thing that I've taken away from all of this, as we've done some research and we've run some pilot programs with Wanderly and NurseFly mm-hmm. both, and I mean they're currently running right now. So you'll see some of our jobs out there.
Yep.
I think there are two big takeaways I have. One, the technology just hasn't caught up yet, right? It's everyone figures their pay packages differently. They want, and on these sites they want an average pay,
Sure.
or whatever. So if it says you're, $2,000 or whatever it is, that's different for everybody. And trying to get that formula correct mm-hmm. has been terribly difficult. So you may see, Turlock, California has a pay package of $2,000 or $2,500 or whatever it is. When you actually talk to your recruiter and you work through those numbers, maybe it's 24, maybe it's 26. Who knows? I mean, it could be even more of a variance than that.
I've seen it on both sides, mm-hmm. and I've seen it just little minute differences, and I've seen $500, $600, $700 differences because it's not the GSAs are wrong, or mm-hmm. it's a different time of season, or mm-hmm. or stuff that, like you said, technology-wise. It's got the coded in there. It's just not pulling correctly into different jobs. So,
right.
I haven't worked with it. There's other recruiters that are working with it here at Atlas, but mm-hmm. I haven't worked with it directly. But I've had people come back to me and say, "Hey, I see this even posted from Atlas,
right.
and how it got pulled from Atlas is still wrong as well."
Mm-hmm.
So just working through those bugs, and I'm sure they are very smart people running these programs, and they're gonna work through those and make it better day by day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think no matter what, at least those two platforms aren't going to go anywhere. And I know Kyle at Blue Pipes is working on something as well. That, mm-hmm. and I'm not sure, it might be more of a job board type of thing. I'm not sure. That's in its infancy too, but that'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Sure.
So with those guys. Second question is, do you have an Instagram account yet?
I still don't.
What?
I still don't.
I have like 4.
Somebody asked me to Venmo me money today, and I had to Google what Venmo was.
What is Venmo?
And then I asked like 7 people if it was safe. And I still haven't done it. But I haven't got into it. Maybe that's something we have to do.
I think you should.
Maybe we do a podcast on how to set up your own Instagram.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun to do.
But no, I still haven't. But that's a great question. Way to call me out.
As I was watching, it was Atlas All Access number 9, where we talked about this originally, and that was you didn't have an Instagram account.
That's funny.
You're rather active on Facebook, though. You like to talk about basketball a lot.
I do.
On Facebook.
Obviously, talk about my Blue Devils.
Obviously,
enough.
yes. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so 1 year later, let's talk about like social platforms. Like, has anything changed there? Facebook, or you wouldn't know on Instagram, Snapchat. Has anything evolved? Have you seen anything like that?
I other than Facebook, I'm not too active on too many other things. So I don't know that I would be personally one to say that it's changed. I think Facebook, I really don't think it has evolved. At least in the travel nursing world. I mean, I think it's still a platform for people to ask questions, to ask for pay packages, to ask for information. I still think that is going good. I still caution people. It's a platform where it's open. You can say what you want, and you always have to kind of fact check of, is that reality? Is that really what's going on? There's 2-3 stories behind every story. So, it's still, but in this day and age, it's a great place to get information. It really is. It's an open forum of asking and stuff like that.
What I think is interesting is just in the past year, and we kind of saw the decline already, but one of the larger Facebook groups for nurses has really lost a lot of steam. And that's partially because it was sold to an agency, right? And it became very driven by money, driven by advertising, and it wasn't a resource anymore. It just became that kind of just another product out there.
Yep.
But then there are 2 other very large, getting large, groups that exist, amongst others. There's quite a few.
Yeah.
But Thomas runs a great one, the Scrub Squad.
Yep.
He runs a really good site. And then Wanderlust Travelers, which came about just about 6 months ago, has really gained a lot of a lot of momentum too. So
yeah. Like you said, they're great platforms, and it's all about the content on there. And I applaud those guys of running those things. I couldn't do it on a daily basis. I mean, there's a lot of traction that goes in there, and what people put on there, and you have to keep it clean and keep it productive. Yeah. Because it can go downhill really quick. I know we have, as a company, have looked into, hey, do you start your own? Do you do that? And it's just like, who monitors that? Who where does that put you? Does it put you in front of people? Does it really put you open to different stuff? So great platforms, but just have to be cautious.
Be cautious, yeah. And I mean, we have ours. Atlas and Friends has been around for the better part of 6 months now.
Yeah, I would say last summer, sometime.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Up to nearly 1,000 members on there that are all either recruiters or nurses, one of the two. We don't do any recruiting out of that. We don't push jobs. It's just a good forum for discussion. There's been a lot of good discussion about housing on there recently, which is super interesting. I never thought it would get to that point, but it has.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing that I see out of Atlas and Friends is even some of my nurses won't text me, but they'll post comments on there of, hey, I'm having a problem with payroll today. Is anybody else? Or, hey, Keith put something on there about benefits the other day. And another nurse it wasn't even somebody from Atlas. Another nurse got in there and solved the problem for him. Yeah. Super cool.
And sometimes it's just as easy, like with the payroll questions, right? It's just as, how are you entering your time on the online timesheet, right? And it was just one little thing that he had to do differently, and somebody else encountered that problem and fixed it for him.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
So last question, have you seen, we talked about lead sources a little bit at the end of that episode. Have you seen anything change there? So before, it was nurses would go out and put their information on like RNVIP or Travel Nurse Source or some random online landing page.
Yep.
You don't know who created it, you don't know who owned it or whatever, but they didn't know where else to go.
Sure.
How has that changed?
I would say that I'm lucky enough that a lot of my personal business is referrals, and I can't thank my nurses enough for that. And I think as you get farther and farther into the recruiter side of things, it just tends to lead that way on there. But I do mentor a lot of new recruiters coming in here, and as much as Facebook, Instagram, those things are great platforms, the old school way of calling, smiling and dialing and calling, you know, database of numbers coming out of RNVIP, Health, HCEN, you know, Nurse Source and those things, calling out of those databases and everything is still the way to go. And I know nurses get upset about it. They're getting a million phone calls and those kind of things. But as recruiters, that is what you have to do to build your desk and start your journey as a recruiter out on there. And I still think that's the way to go. I don't think it'll ever go away from that. And it could be a phone call, it could be a text, it could be an email. Shouldn't be all three. I'll still, you shouldn't, that gets bombarding and annoying for the nurse on that side. But I still think picking up the phone, having a conversation, getting to know somebody, and being able to say, even from the nurse side or the recruiter side, hey, I don't think we're going to be a good match. Let's move on to something else.
Yep.
And spend your time more wisely on there. I don't think that's ever going to go away. I just think in the recruiting industry, I just think it's never going to go away, that you have to have that personal connection with somebody in some sort of way to be successful.
I agree. I think the number of calls has probably gone down total, just because texting and direct messages have become more prevalent. But I really think, much to the dismay of, if you put your phone number out there, people are going to call you. It's going to happen that way, right?
Yeah,
and
no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do this in another year then.
It's always going to evolve. Keep going.
Absolutely. If you have seen anything yourself, if you've seen something evolve or change out there, we just talked to a nurse on the Atlas Life this week. Yeah, last week. It was last week, who was traveling back in 2001.
Wow.
When they did like 4-week contracts and, or whatever. It was completely different back then.
Sure.
So it was fun to hear her stories about how much it's changed.
Yeah.
So
no doubt.
If it's changed at all and you've got some fun stories, please let us know. We'd love to hear them.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great week.
We'll see you next week.